Hello everyone, welcome back to another lesson with me, Martin Tennant. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to cover a new and very interesting topic for the guitar, and that is natural guitar harmonics. Now, harmonics is a really pure and cool sound that you can get from the instrument. It's one of the most beautiful sounds that you can get from this instrument, I think. And I know there's a lot of people that tend to agree that there's something about natural harmonics that's just got a whole beauty of its own, and it's quite a hard technique to grasp at first, but it really involves a simple technique that involves with mostly the left hand, and then you just pick with the right hand. I'll show you how to the fundamentals for this technique in this lesson, and then next lesson in the series I'm going to show you how you could apply natural harmonics to certain musical situations and how to create some melodies using natural harmonics. I think you're going to really enjoy this, and you're going to find this pretty cool and fun to learn. So let's get straight to it. I'm going to zoom in on the neck and show you how to play some natural harmonics, and these are going to be the easiest ones to play. I know there are some different ways to play harmonics, and you can play in different positions, but I'm going to show you how to play the most common and the easiest ones for anyone to pick up and learn, just so that everyone can have a chance to learn these, and it's a bit easier for everyone that way. So let's get straight to it. I'm going to zoom in and show you how to play some natural harmonics. Okay, so let's start off with how to actually play a natural harmonic. Now, the key thing with a natural harmonic is you don't want to actually fret the string. That's not what we're going for with natural harmonics. The idea of a natural harmonic is that you're getting a pure natural harmonic tone, which is not really produced by the note being made through the contact of the fretboard. Like, that's not a harmonic. That's just a note, a regular note that you get from a fretted string. That's not what we want. What we want is this sound. Okay, as you can tell, that's quite a pure tone compared to, as you can, when you just pick in a note, you can hear the sort of the brush of the pick making contact with the string. And with harmonics, you don't really hear that. You just hear it like for a fraction of a second, but you get this really amazingly pure tone, and it just sounds beautiful when you're starting doing things like this. See what I mean? Doesn't that just sound so beautiful? So that's what we're looking towards for this lesson. This is what I'm going to show you how to do. This is the way I do it, and I know pretty much most people who I know who do this technique do it like this as well. In fact, I was taught how to do this by one of my college students rather than a guitar tutor. This might be how most people do it, but you be the judge. But I'm going to show you how I do it, because it works for me. It might work for you as well. So what we want to do, we're going to start off with the natural harmonic that's based on the 12th fret, because I need to point out that natural harmonics will only work on certain positions of the neck. There is a way that you could play natural harmonics anywhere on the neck at all, but I'm not going to show you that today. That's going to be for another time. For now, we're just going to show you how the easiest ways to play the harmonics, and this is only going to be restricted to certain locations on the neck. And these locations are going to be up here on the 12th fret, or here on the 7th fret, and on the 5th fret as well. 3 different positions that you can play natural harmonics, and you can play it on any of the 6 strings as well, so long as you've got the technique right. Speaking of which, the actual technique itself, what you want to do to produce a natural harmonic, you want to take your finger. You could use any of your fingers. I would recommend starting off with your first finger because it's a bit easier. You want, as I said, you don't want to actually fret the string. You actually want it to just your finger just to kind of brush against it, and also you don't want the finger to be behind the string on this side like you do when you're fretting a string. You actually want to bring it up, as I say, brush against the string. So you just want to have a little bit of contact. It's like not enough to to create pressure so that the string's actually hitting the fret and hitting the wood. You just want it enough so that you feel the finger brushing against the string. And it just has to be a little bit. You don't want to overdo it, just enough so that you can feel the string brushing against, you feel the friction of the string and the finger brushing against each other. Now position wise, you want to be here where the metal fret is. This is actually the fret, the metal bit is actually the metal fret for this particular fret, the 12th fret. So you want to be kinda almost on top of it, kinda to the right and on top of it. And again, you don't want to be making contact with the metal fret necessarily, because that will affect the sound. You may get a more of a metallic kind of sound if the string makes contact. So again, you just want to brush it. Just bring your finger slightly over and to the right of the fret. And once you've done that, just pick the string. In this case, I'm going to pick the high E string. So let's try that now. There's your natural harmonic. That's how it should sound if you're doing this technique correctly. If it sounded like it was getting muted out or it didn't last very long, then you may need to adjust accordingly to make sure that you're doing it right, because you're doing something wrong. If it sounds too buzzy, again, you're doing something wrong. And what you want it to be a pure tone, not a fuzzy. Don't want it to sound like that or like that. Again, you don't want it to sound like it's been fretted. You want it just to be a pure like that. So if it doesn't sound like that, if it's something that sounds wrong, go back and look at how I showed you how to play the technique just now, and adjust your finger accordingly until you get the right sound. And the great thing is, once you've got the technique, it's pretty easy to apply, and you'll find it. You'll be able to just naturally just position your finger exactly the way you need to. And what's even better is that this applies to all 6 strings. So you do the high E, you can do the B, you can do the G, D, A, and the whole E. You see, like there, that was a little bit buzzy, so that was incorrect, so I'm going to play that again. That's better. A little tip for you, if you're starting off with this technique and you're finding it difficult, and this is a really difficult technique to kind of grasp in the beginning, so I appreciate that this won't be easy for some of you people. I found this pretty hard to begin with. But what I did when I was practicing harmonics was I started off with the thickest strings, because I find that the thicker strings are kind of easier to produce the natural harmonic. So start off by doing the natural harmonic on the 12th fret on the low E. See if that's any better. You may find that that's an easier one to produce a sound, because there's a bit with the high E, because it's not as thick, it may be a bit harder for you to kind of position your finger correctly. And because of the thicker string, it's a little easier to produce a sound, because there's going to be more sort of vibration within the string itself to produce even like the slightest of sounds. See, even if you're not doing it correctly, you can still hear it. Start off by practicing this technique with the thickest strings, and then build your way up. And once you've got the hang of it, try the high E, B, and G strings. Now let's try the same technique with the other frets. So we're going to try the 7th fret now. Here. Now that's the B. That's actually a B. And playing on the 7th fret of the low E. And again, just like before, you want to make sure that the finger is just brushing against the string, not actually fretting the string, and just want to be directly over the fret. And you can be slightly to the left, you can be slightly over it, just so long as the string isn't actually making contact with the metal fret or the wood, you should get this technique down. So let's just try that again. So now let's try that on the A string. Here's the D string now. G, B. You might find it harder when you get down to this fret with the lower strings, because it is a little harder to get the note completely accurate. The best way to know exactly where you need to put your finger is just to kind of move your finger around like that until you can hear the purest tone. Like there, you just hear the string getting muted. If I move it over here, it's starting to sound more like a harmonic. And right there, that's the sweet spot for getting the harmonic. So you'll be able to become accustomed to where exactly your finger needs to go to produce the correct harmonic for each particular string. And here's the high E. Now, as I said, this might take time for you to get used to memorize exactly where your fingers go and to get the technique. But just keep practicing it. This is one of those techniques that's going to take a little bit of time to develop and to get correct. And once you've got that down, then you've pretty much got the technique, and it will stay with you for a long time. This is one of these techniques that it's very hard to master in the beginning, but once you've got it, it will stay with you for a long time, and you'll find you'll be able to play harmonics left, right, and centre on these particular frets. And just to quickly finish off this lesson, let's just do the exact same thing on the 5th fret. Now this is probably the hardest one to do because of the strings are a bit closer to the frets and the wood of the fretboard down here. It's going to be a little bit harder to make sure that the strings aren't actually going to make contact. But let's just try it briefly now. So there's a little E. Again, make sure that it's a pure tone and doesn't sound like it's getting actually fretted, or that it's too buzzy, or any other issues like that. Make sure that it's a pure tone. Right, let's try the A. There we go. And if you hear any overtones, you might hear some overtones like you heard just there. That's okay. You're going to get that sometimes when you're playing some of these harmonics. You just about hear another note played behind it, and that's called an overtone when that happens. And with harmonics, that's going to happen, especially when you're learning this technique for the first time. So don't worry too much about that when you're learning this technique. One last thing I'll show you is that is one of the great things about harmonics is that as well as playing individual notes, you can play chords. So obviously there's quite restricted chords because there's only certain notes that you can pick and there's certain positions. So the chords you can play are very restrictive, but they really are beautiful chords that you can play using these harmonics. Here's the one for example. Isn't that really beautiful? So basically all I'm doing here is applying the same technique for harmonics, where taking a bar shape, instead of just doing one string, it's a whole bar shape, but again we're just brushing against the strings, not pushing them down, just brushing against them so that your finger is making contact with the strings. And make sure once again that the finger is slightly over and to the right of the metal fret of the fret that you're trying to play. And then you could either play the notes separately to make sure that each one sounds right, or you can just strum the whole chord. So you could do this. Or you can just strum the whole chord like this. And that chord that was played there is actually an E minor 7 chord, and it's a really beautiful chord that you get from these harmonics. If you want just an E minor chord, then you just play the top 3 chords from G, B and E. You just get an E minor. If you just want to leave the third out entirely, you can just play B and high E. You can get a G chord if you just play strings D, G and B. very restrictive, but you get some beautiful sounds, and I get a very pure tone through a chord, and it just sounds amazing. You can do the exact same thing on the 7th fret and the 5th fret. So let's just try that with on the 7th fret. That is a B minor chord, just by getting the string G, B, and E. And if you add the 4th string, you'll get a B minor 7. And if you want a D major chord, then just hit the strings D, G, and B. So that's it for this lesson. Next lesson we're going to go into learning how to apply these natural harmonics to some melodic and musical So that's it for this lesson. That's how the fundamentals of natural harmonics. So next lesson we're going to go over how to apply natural harmonics to some musical situations, and I think you'll find that really enjoyable. And we're going to be using some backing tracks to help us with this particular lesson. So stay tuned for next lesson, and hope to see you there. So bye for now.